What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. We're going to be taking a look at gold today. It is January 4th. It is a new year, and we're going to talk about the potential bullish run that we could see here in 2021. I'm going to give you guys my full opinion about where I think gold is headed this year, as well as do some technical analysis here in the now and look if there's any sort of trade setups that I really like. Now, I talked briefly yesterday about gold on our Sunday analysis that we do every week, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth, especially this morning when we see gold breaking through some of those key resistance levels that we talked about in yesterday's video. So stay tuned. Let's get into this one. So gold here on the 4-hour chart looking super bullish. And I really like the idea of looking to get long here, but I don't want to just jump into this trade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down exactly where I like the idea of getting long on gold right now. So we're looking at the 4-hour chart, and before we're going to come back to the 4-hour chart, but really quick, let's look at the daily chart because I want to show you guys something. So the first thing that I want to talk about is notice that we have to set the scene in the sense of what is the current dominant trend in gold. Now, you might look at the daily chart and at first glance say, hey, you know, it looks like it was in a downtrend and now it's starting to break into an uptrend. But in my opinion here, or at least based on my own technical analysis, the trend was always up, okay? Because if we're looking at the daily chart, what I tend to use as my long-term indicator, if you're a fan of the channel or if you watch for a while, you know I love that 200-day simple moving average. It's this big red line here on the chart, and usually you're going to see it in almost all of my charts or my videos because I always try and keep it on my chart because I really like using the 200. Okay, the 200 is a long-term, slow, lagging moving average that I actually really like. You might say, well, if it's lagging, then why is it any good? And the reason is because it uses a lot of past data. It looks back 200 days or 200 bars of whatever chart you're looking at to gauge the overall direction of a market or the dominant energy. And what you'll notice here is that when we look at the 200-day on the gold market, we see price steadily staying above that level. That is a very healthy, bullish, long-term bias for me right off the bat. Now, just because something is above the 200-day moving average does not necessarily mean that I'm going to buy it. For example, I had no interest in buying gold here, even though price was significantly above the 200-day moving average. In fact, I think it's healthy when a price is moving to and from a moving average. I consider that a more healthy trend. For example, if we're bouncing off of it and continuing, bouncing off and continuing, that tells me that there is still fresh demand. In fact, that brings me to our current situation, which, check out the daily chart here. You can see we bounced very strongly off of this 200-day moving average. Now let's rewind a bit and take a look at what happened the last time this scenario happened back here in good old 2020. It seems like so long ago we were in 2020, even though it was only 4 days ago. It really doesn't seem that long at all, to be honest. 2021 is going to be what you make of it. Same with 2020. It's up to you to make this year the best year you can. And if we're talking about trading specifics, that's going to be completely 100% on you to take ownership and get your trading going right in 2021. I know that's a goal for a lot of people here. And if it is a goal for you, then I wish you the very best of luck with it. Although it's not entirely luck, it's a combination of luck and practice and discipline and dedication to this. So when we're looking at gold here, back in 2020 though, back in March of 2020, we saw price come down to that 200-day, and this was so bullish because we rallied off of that low so convincingly, and we kept going throughout the rest of 2020 on gold for the most part. Now, towards the end of 2020, we had a sideways market, and this, guys, is where I wanted to talk about. We had this kind of reloading sequence on gold. What I mean by that is, after that massive run-up that a lot of us saw, if you were trading during this time, you saw gold. It was very impressive. It just kept going up and up and up. And now it looks like Bitcoin is doing that sort of thing. But that's another video for another time. When we look at gold now, you can see we entered back into a pullback sort of scenario on the long-term charts, right? Here's that dominant uptrend. Then we get the counter trend, okay? So my opinion here, based on, well, it is an opinion in the sense that what is a trend, because you can define it many different ways. But for me, a long-term trend is based on that 200-day moving average, which tells us, okay, long-term, we're bullish. Counter trend, we had this downward channel here on gold, okay? We topped out around the 2000s areas, and then we've been pulling back since. However, we just broke out of a key level that we've been watching, which is, check out this resistance area. Each time prices rallied into the top of this channel, we've seen a pretty good bearish rejection until now. And this, combined with our fact that we bounced off the 200-day moving average recently, gives me a very bullish outlook for gold. Everything in the terms of technicals looks really good. We're continuing to hold our overall long-term trend. We're above that 200-day moving average. We've broken out of that significant counter trend, right? That downward motion and the rejection points here on the downward channel there. And now we are staying above pretty convincingly this area of what was resistance, right? That all those from the technical perspective tell me that gold is most likely going to be bullish and probably going to be looking for some setups on my end on gold going into the rest of, or at least the next few weeks and few months, as long as things continue to show bullish signs. So with that said, one more thing to add for me is that the US dollar is still a bearish bias for me. Okay, I'm still bearish overall on the US dollar. If you've been watching the channel, you know I've said this a couple times, so I won't repeat myself too much, but basically US dollar, or the Fed, printing a lot of money, trying to appease or help stimulate the economy as things try and get back on track, which causes people to take their money out of the US dollar. They say, I don't want cash, I want to go invest it in stocks, I want to invest the stimulus money in whatever, real estate, whatever people are investing in, right? Lately people have been investing in all sorts of things. People investing in stocks, in crypto, in collectible cards. That's another thing that I'm looking at myself. But anyways, people are investing their money in all sorts of other places, and that is causing the US dollar to be less interesting than other things. So when we look at things like gold, right, we're seeing a pretty good price movement that we saw back in 2020, and now I think it's set to potentially continue. So now that we have all of that in mind, now let's go back to the 4-hour chart and see if we can do a little bit more fine-tuning analysis here, okay? So now we have that daily bullish view, or at least I do. You may have something different. Comment, by the way, if you think if you have any sort of ideas about gold, if you think it's bullish or bearish or whatever, let me know down below in the comments. I'm sure we'll have some various opinions there. So with gold, with the 4-hour chart, I love the fact that we've been forming these higher lows and really respecting structure. Because look at this. Each time price makes a move lately, you can see it kind of forms a pivot low, or a strong area of support on the bottom, and then it does it again, right? So it breaks out of resistance, keeps going, forms a level of support, and then rallies once more. Now we have a key level here, okay? And this brings me finally to where I'd love to get involved with gold if at all possible. If price, notice if it continues the pattern here, right? Rallies, forms a support level, right? And then rallies off and breaks through resistance, forms a support level, right? Rallies, breaks through resistance. If it comes back to this level, then I would be very interested in trying to continue with the trend, especially when we have that daily chart backing the trend currently. Okay, so this is a trade idea specifically on gold that I really like here, and using multiple time frames, this really gives me a pretty clear picture. So I really like the idea of buying into gold around here and probably putting a stop underneath structure that we've observed, right? Because price is right now very much respecting structure. Now that could change, of course, but for the most part, I'm going to try and capture the next move if at all possible. So if price does come down to my level there, I'd be trying to anticipate this previous resistance that now broke through to hold as support. So long as buyers want to continue to run this thing up, they will probably try and hold this area. So if price were to move down, let's talk about the downside. I might put structure in case price just wants to retest this area. Underneath that structure is probably where I would put my stop loss personally, okay? So that gives me a pretty good room to run there. You might say, oh, well, Nick, that's a terrible reward to risk, and you'd be correct. So this is probably not where I'd put my target. In fact, there's a couple different places I like to trail stops personally, so I probably wouldn't put a target, but I like to put targets in my videos or ideas to think about, just because I know a lot of other people prefer to have targets. There's some options that you have here. For example, you could go for just a retest of that 2000 mark, that high point, the retest of the high, which gives you a really great 3.3 to 1 reward to risk, which is not bad at all, especially considering our stop in this case seems to be in a pretty decent location. I like that area because, again, we've got a couple main factors here that give us some clarity in terms of a stop loss, because we have this previous resistance in terms of that long-term trend line we talked about on the daily, and we've got these shorter term levels of support here, right? So price, if it breaks through that, then I'm probably not interested in trying to hold on to that sort of position. In fact, in that case, I'm happy to stop out, move on to something else. However, if price does come down to those levels, I think there's a couple different bullish barriers or bullish levels of support that could lead price to try and bounce off and continue this overall dominant uptrend. That is my thoughts for gold 2021 so far. We will see if things change. Of course, gold is a hot topic on this channel as well as many others. So if anything changes, of course, I will let you guys know. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below if you enjoy my content, and support it by giving a like to the video down below. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back in the next one.